Hi, I'm Hazel. It's almost Saturday today, and that makes it time to sit down and catch up on the WoW news of the week, what I've been up to, and answer some of your questions. This week was a big week. First of all, we got the official patch release date announcement, finally. Patch 8.2 will be hitting live servers starting next week, so Tuesday, June 25th for NA, June 26th for EU, and then I think the 27th for Asia. And then the raid and dungeon content will be opening 2 weeks later, starting on July the 9th. And all I can say is, it's about time. And I am deeply, deeply excited. There is going to be so much going on in 8.2. Along with the patch release date announcement and the patch features trailer, they also released a developer insights video. It was about a half hour long. I listened to it this morning, and I do strongly recommend listening it to yourself firsthand if all you've heard about it has been from people like me or like news sites laying out the notes. There is some nuance that I feel like you're only really going to get if you have the full wording, so I do recommend putting it on. You don't really need to look at it. He's mostly just doing the thing that everybody does when they're trying to talk on camera, which is try and figure out exactly how much hand talking is the right amount of hand talking. I don't know if anybody knows, but yeah, it's a good one to put on and then listen to while you're playing some WoW.
But as it turns out, we actually are kind of attached to our fleshy bits.
So they touched on a couple of topics, and for most of them, I do agree, with one major exceptions. And before getting into it, I would like to say that it's really nice to see like such a healthy like ratio on content that comes directly from the WoW team, especially on something that is as clearly well thought out and sincere as this. It's just nice to know that the community can still listen to information before they immediately decide that they hate it. I'm not saying that that's how everybody handles media, but there is definitely a sensationalist bent these days, so it's nice that people can still be receptive to that. So in no particular order, they talked about class design philosophy and admitted that they took class pruning too far, and he also said that they prioritize spec identity at the expense of class identity, so that like the different specs of each classes have kind of come to feel a little bit too different from each other, which I never really had a problem with, but now that you think about it, it does make a lot of sense. It's kind of weird how like vastly different it feels to play an arcane mage versus a frost mage versus a fire mage. So I agree with that. It's nice to see where they stand on class design as far as complexity goes. I think it's promising for the future, although I would caution people against getting too excited right away. It's easy to get a little confused because this info was in a video that started out plugging patch 8.2, but these changes are not really happening in 8.2. Class design stuff I would not expect to see until patch 9.0, like the next expansion. If you log in on Tuesday expecting to see all of your pruned buttons back, you're going to have a bad day. He also talked about whether or not catch-up mechanics have gone too far. Once again, I think that this is an interesting topic of discussion, but it was never something that really bothered me, and I agree with where they landed on it, which is prioritizing getting somebody who wants to come back to the game or somebody new to the game caught up to the current tier of content so they can play with everybody else. If I'm doing a piece of content to get some gear, I always do that with the expectation that that gear will be relevant for that patch, and then that's the end of it. And catch-up gear is usually the bottom tier of gear in any given patch, so it's not like somebody's going to come back and catch up beyond my current level. They're just getting caught up to like the baseline level of whatever patch we're in, and that's never personally bothered me. I never felt like my last patch's like grinding of Battle of Dazar'alor, for example, was devalued because it was devalued the moment 8.2 came out and I went and got new gear anyways. I understand the argument to be made of wanting to feel like that work mattered in the long run, but it's never going to matter in the long run. You know, you're not going to be wearing your Battle of Dazar'alor gear into the next patch. You get to keep your achievements and the memories of the friends you made along the way. And for me, that's enough. And then he also took a few minutes to talk about getting PvE gear from PvP and vice versa, specifically at a high rating. This is a hot topic of discussion these days because of Titan essences. There are some very good ones from a variety of sources that will be good in both PvE and PvP. And a lot of people, myself included, have some strong feelings about that, so I'm glad they came out and clarified their position. I just wildly don't agree with their position. Like, this is where I get off the sounds good, makes sense train. His arguments in favor of it being okay to have the best PvP gear be available in PvE and vice versa. He said that they want to stay in touch with the RPG roots where stats and rewards matter. He said they want your character to feel consistent moving from a raid into a PvP setting. They want you to feel like you're playing the same character on the same story. And he also said that RPG PvP is about asymmetry. So basically, they're okay with a player who is looking for the best PvP gear to have to go and mythic raid to do it. And on the flip side, they're also okay with somebody who is like a cutting edge raider, like world first race material, to feel the need to go and do high end rated PvP in order to get the very best tools for the job. So you know what? I'm not fully off the train. I am half off the train. I am actually, and this may be unpopular, but I am okay with the very, 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 very best PvE gear being available from PvP. First of all, it's just another thing that the World First Raiders are going to add to their gold debt. They're just going to buy self-play carries with gold. And those people are their own species, those cutting edge raiders that will do anything for the best advantage. At least I have accepted for a while now, they are a different kind of person from me, and I think that it's okay that they do insane things that I don't do because it doesn't affect my ability to progress through the content. So what I'm saying is that I'm okay with a World First Raider being able to do PvP, get their best in slot thing, and kill the boss earlier, because I don't have to go do that thing in order to kill the boss. I'm just going to do it later. Like, a raid boss is a static difficulty enemy that, if anything, gets easier over time as people gear up and as they nerf the bosses. So I'm still going to be able to do it, just not as early, and that's kind of something we've already accepted. Like, unless you're willing to run split raids and buy the very best consumables and like trade BOEs across servers and like go into gold debt, like, unless you're willing to do all of the stuff that Method did, you don't really have to stress about being missing something on day one, because you're still going to be able to clear the raid even without getting like an elite PvP item. So that's fine to me. But the flip side is where I get fully off the train. In PvP, my opponent will always be as hard as the other person playing plus their gear. Right? Like, it's never going to get nerfed. I'm never going to outgear them. And this whole philosophy of trying to make you progress via gearing in rated PvP is, in my opinion, just inherently a mess. Your PvP opponent has access to every advantage that you do, and they will always have that thing. So there's a much greater incentive for them to go get that mythic rating trinket, again, probably through a gold carry. And that person will always have that advantage, and I think that makes it a much more expected thing for a high-end PvPer to have to do, especially in order to get like accepted into groups and whatnot. So I respect what they're saying about wanting to follow the rules of an RPG, wanting to progress in gear to make something easier. I just think that that philosophy, it is not compatible with competitive rated PvP. By all means, have gear matter, have raid trinkets work, have raid essences work in world PvP, in unrated BGs, in skirmishes. Go nuts, you know, gear up and then stomp on all the people that don't have gear yet. That's fine to me, but once you take that attitude into a rated ladder environment, you've just completely compromised any kind of competitive integrity that ladder is supposed to have. I think that a rated competitive PvP mode needs to have nothing separating players except for their own skill and the choices they made in a loadout, and ideally everyone has access to the same choices. In my opinion, and this is an opinion, but progression in rated PvP should mean practicing and getting better. It does not mean grinding at a content that is completely unrelated from PvP, the thing you're trying to do, in order to gear up and then just have an unfair advantage. I don't think that's very esporty. And if WoW wants to be taken seriously as a competitive esport, and it's no secret that the WoW esport scene is struggling, I think that this is something that they really need to give up on and let go of. I don't think they're going to. I think they've made themselves very clear that they are unwilling to tear PvP off from the mesh of the rest of the game, or at least ladder PvP, and make it its own thing. And it's just kind of existed in this awkward middle space that now has so many barriers to entry for anybody new that wants to get into Arena. Like, the whole driving force, in my opinion, the whole appeal of an esport is looking at it and cheering for it and saying, I could do that. And then you log into the game and you go, wait a minute, I can't do that. I need all of my Azerite gear. I need all of my Titan essences. I need to level up my neck. I need to go run this old raid to get this trinket that's overtuned and is going to do 10% of my damage in this arena game. You're not, like, that's time that you're not even practicing, and you're going to get into the game, even if you get all that stuff, and you're still going to suck. I've gotten kind of off topic here, but hopefully I've made my point clear. I respect where they're coming from, I just don't agree at all. Watching these developer insight videos, it just feels like they're pretty in touch with their raiding community. I feel like they know how raiders play, what their goals are, and what they want. And I also feel like they're pretty in touch with the casual community, and they sort of have a grasp on how people that like collecting and alts and cosmetics play and what they want. It feels to me, based on these communications, that they are utterly out of touch with their competitive PvP community. I do not get the sense that anybody making these decisions has personal experience. I could be wrong. You know, maybe there's a bunch of gladiators that are pulling the strings here, but I do not get that impression from their stance on stuff like this. It's just disappointing to see. It's like I feel like it's probably a low priority for them because like high-end rated PvP is such a small niche community. It's a very small community. It's not a large amount of people. And it's going to stay a very small community unless we lift some of these barriers to entry and make it easier to get started and go, and then face the fact that you suck instead of the fact that you're not geared. Anyways, other things that happened this week, they announced an XP nerf that is specifically targeting Island Expedition twink characters, power leveling other people through Island Expeditions. Some people were upset about this. It didn't faze me at all because I didn't power level through Island Expeditions, and I don't really see a strong need for it. Like, leveling 110 to 120 does not take long, it's not difficult, and you can progress towards other goals while also doing it. So it just seems like they're reining in like an unexpected method of leveling, and that makes sense to me. It doesn't seem like the change is going to impact anybody outside of people that were specifically doing that, so I'm on board. The Midsummer Fire Festival starts today, and there is a new cosmetic hearthstone for Burning Blossoms. So that is available. I know there's like a lot of stuff going on, but like now, before the patch comes out, would be a great time to go visit some bonfires and work on that. In my life this week, I reached Twitch affiliate on my burgeoning, bludgeoning, blossoming. I started a Twitch stream and it's going okay so far, and we have unlocked affiliate, so starting on Sunday, my next stream, I'll be able to accept any Twitch Prime subs or otherwise subs. Thank you very much to everybody that has been stopping by and supporting that. It means a lot to me. And then in completely not WoW news, Harry Potter Wizards Unite came out, which is basically the Harry Potter version of Pokemon Go, but different, but also the same. It's by the same company. I do not have time for this right now. I can't explain to you how much I do not have time for this right now, but I've downloaded it anyways, and I keep picking it up and playing it. I started out confused, and then I was overwhelmed, and then I kind of started to get it, and now I think that it is too engaging for a game that you were intended to play on your phone while outside in public. I noticed that while I was out there casting spells and battling enemies and all that, when I probably should have been here editing, while I was doing that, I was so absorbed and focused on what I was doing on my phone that there could have been an actual ogre stomping its way through the park and I would not have noticed. So it may be a public safety hazard, at least for me. Questions from this week. Heather wants to know, where did you get your Whelpling plushes? All your plushes, actually. I would love a few of my own. So all of my plushes on the shelf back there were bought from the Blizzard Gear store at various points in time. Most of them and all of the Whelplings, unfortunately, are no longer available on the Gear store. They very much like to put things in the store and then take them off without warning forever sometimes. They still offer like the Murloc and the Shadow and like the newer plushies. The baby Tortollan with the traumatized look on his face, he's still in the store. But yeah, Blizzard Gear. Same thing for the posters, if anybody's wondering about those. Blizzard Gear no longer available. Nisbet, if you could add any other game to WoW, kind of like Pokemon got slipped in as pet battles, what would it be? I'd quite like Mario Kart style racing. So Darkman Fair Racing, actually like the closest thing, I think, and I'm sure you already know about this, to Mario Kart style racing, but I get that it's like just you, it's not a competitive thing. I would like to see them take another stab at farming, and I know we had the farm in Pandaria, and I also know that we had the garden in our Draenor garrison, and that's not really what I want. I am unabashedly in love with Stardew Valley, and I really liked how customizable that farm was. I feel like if they ever did some kind of instance player housing, if they ever tried that again, it would be nice to have some kind of a farming setup that's a little bit less cookie cutter than the Pandaria farm was. Like, I want to choose where I'm planting stuff, I want to choose what I'm planting, and I want to be able to like unlock upgrades that are more significant than just like a sprinkler. Dan asks, do you think you would do squad streams on Twitch with friends, guildmates, other steamers, etc.? So the most likely thing to having contact with another human being while I'm streaming would be like PvPing with some of my existing friends in a Discord call, maybe. Although if I do end up doing that at any point, it's going to mean massively ignoring Twitch chat. I'm open to the idea. I'm just very, very bad at networking. And I'd hate to rush it because nothing's worse than like making friends with somebody for any reason other than just wanting to be their friend. So not in a big hurry. And Itchy asks, what potential future expansion are you most excited for? So you actually said it, the Void one, specifically the Black City of Neolotha. I love Lovecraftian themed stories. I actually really like horror books. I cannot handle horror movies, but horror books I'm a big fan of, and I really like the old Lovecraft stuff. And then any media that kind of parrots that aesthetic is always going to be a big hit with me. So I really want to see how WoW would take on like the Black City. I think that would be really cool. And I also think it's fairly likely. I think there's a good bet that that's coming in the next expansion or two. So that has been my week. Thank you guys very much for watching. Let me know what you think. If you have any questions that you would like me to answer on a vlog, please leave them in the comments of the most recent vlog. Stop by a stream and say hi sometime if that is something that you feel would add anything to your day. It certainly adds something to mine. I hope that you guys have a wonderful, wonderful day. Bye. This cat was asleep, but she's on the clock. You can't be sleeping on the job, or if you want to be sleeping on the job, you got to sleep on camera on the job. That's the deal.